At this point, you're, of course, probably wondering what we can do to stop this risk-reward cycle, to stop the big bank CEOs from keeping all the profits of their legalized, which is Mr. Feinberg's point, gambling, and then pass the risk on to you, our government, and in the process, suck trillions out. You heard Governor Strickland at Ohio earlier. They don't have any jobs. There's no small business lending, but the money's rolling here in New York. Well, in my opinion, there are three people we need to hold accountable. The first is the Fed Chairman, Ben Bernanke. The second, the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner. And the third, the White House National Economic Council Director, Larry Summers. These three men created and even enable, in my view, a system that is still in play today. Mr. Bernanke, if you will, is your arsonist fireman. Yeah. And yes, it was clearly Mr. Bernanke who put out the flames of the financial collapse by offering an infinite supply of money from the Federal Reserve to the largest banks in America in February of 2009. After months of programs and catharsis, finally Bernanke said, listen, infinity, and it calmed down. That's critical to our stability, by the way, in the months that followed. However, the fire he put out was one his policies helped to start, in my view, by handing out those cheap loans from the Federal Reserve to the banks for years where they're able to gamble again by levering it up. Today, in fact, the Huffington Post reports more senators in our Congress are hedging on whether they'll even vote to reconfirm Bernanke because of their concerns about his role as arsonist fireman. In fact, news just coming through over the past half hour that Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid now has asked Republican leader Mitch McConnell to see how many votes he has on the Republican side that are for Bernanke. Meantime, three more senators, Russ Feingold, Barbara Boxer, and Byron Dorgan, added their names to those in opposition to Mr. Bernanke, whose term is officially up at the end of this month. Then there's the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, who remains the keeper of secrets. Again, he is the one with the authority over the AIG emails and the provider of backdoor bailouts. Again, those documents and the 100 cents on a dollar pass-through from AIG into the shadow banking system, Goldman, Morgan, now Barron Lehman. Under fresh scrutiny for his role in the New York Fed's decision to funnel billions through AIG and big banks and his ongoing refusal to disclose that email trail, which could show why the Fed had to do it. And the last in the trifecta is a man that I like to call the high priest of financial deregulation, Larry Summers. He was Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, and Summers, one of the key architects of the bank rule changes, incentivizing the excessive risk-taking that Mr. Steagall was talking about in his testimony earlier today. Those policies continue unchecked and with unlimited state support to this day, despite a various list of proposals Mr. Feinberg just referenced to alter it. In my view, the buck stops with these three men. And it is so good to know this week that voices like Chairman Paul Volcker and Professor Elizabeth Warren, who understand the structural flaws in a system that takes other people's money and gambles with it, that allows uncollateralized insurance to come into the marketplace and allow willy-nilly lending and gambling. Now, maybe it's time for some of the old voices to go in order to give the new voices, like Warren and Volcker, a chair. We can only hope.